There are films that survive through reels, scripts, and archived production logs. And then there are films that survive only through whispers. In the long, dust-choked corridors of Hollywood's science fiction vaults, a stranger kind of artifact exists. Endings that were once screened, once witnessed, and then quietly erased from the official record. These fragments weren't cut for pacing, nor discarded by accident. They simply vanished. Studio logs list nothing. Editors deny working on them. Archivists report gaps where something should be, but isn't. And yet, scattered across decades, people who attended early test screenings repeat the same unnerving phrase, "I saw an ending that isn't on the home release. I'm sure of it." Some of these lost conclusions were rumored to overturn the entire narrative. Others shifted the film's moral compass. A few hinted at realities the studios weren't willing to explore. What remains today are recollections, half-remembered scenes, conflicting testimonies, and production notes abruptly ending mid-sentence. Nothing concrete, nothing official, just enough to suggest that these endings did exist and enough inconsistency to suggest someone wanted them gone. Tonight, we unlock a vault Hollywood refuses to claim ownership of. A vault built not from celluloid, but from absence. From the void left behind when a film's final moments are excised yet never fully forgotten. These aren't alternate endings. They're endings with no remaining proof. Endings that slipped out of the physical world and lodged themselves into memory alone. Welcome to the cut that never returned. 15 sci-fi films with lost endings no studio can account for. 15 cases where the final scenes simply evaporated. 15 cinematic ghosts that should not exist yet do, in the minds of those who saw them. Let's open the first file. 1. AI, Artificial Intelligence, 2001. Steven Spielberg's AI ends with a bittersweet fantasy, but several early attendees of private screenings claimed the original ending was far colder, closer to Kubrick's sensibilities than Spielberg's. In the rumored Lost version, after David lies beside the recreated vision of Monica, the camera reportedly drifts away from the domestic scene and into a wide shot of the frozen world. Here, viewers described seeing dozens, perhaps hundreds of abandoned mecha buried beneath ice, their lights faintly blinking. The camera then descended into the ice, revealing chambers where mecha recorded their final thoughts before shutting down. Some witnesses claim the last message David transmitted was played in a distorted, looped form. Will she wake up? In this cut, the new evolved beings, often mistaken for aliens, did not speak kindly about humanity. Instead, they allegedly discussed humans as a resource long exhausted, analyzing David with academic detachment rather than empathy. Such a version would have dramatically shifted the film's meaning from a tale of enduring love to a study of extinction and the limits of artificial longing. Spielberg later claimed the ending was his own creation, not Kubrick's, but the rumors persist, fueled by vague comments from effects artists who remembered rendering ice vault grids and buried unit helmets that never appeared in the final edit. If the lost ending ever existed, it was erased with surgical precision, leaving behind only whispers of a conclusion too bleak, too honest, or too prophetic for mainstream audiences. 2. Blade Runner 1982. Blade Runner already has multiple endings, but there are persistent rumors of a truly lost one, screened only during the earliest test showings. In this version, Deckard's escape with Rachel reportedly continued beyond the cabin sequence. Witnesses say the camera followed Deckard alone as he walked outside into the snow, leaving Rachel inside. He pauses, noticing flakes landing on his hand, flakes that appear metallic, not frozen water. Suddenly, the flakes begin to dissolve, leaving behind microscopic reflective shards. Deckard looks up to see the sky shimmering with faint grid-like patterns, as though the world itself is beginning to break down. Some witnesses claim a distorted synthetic voice whispered, "Duration expired." Ridley Scott denies this ending was ever shot. Warner Brothers denies it even harder. Yet early production documents reference an urban snowfall element test, involving reflective foils rather than real snow. A visual effects artist once mentioned creating sky grid composites that were ultimately unused. None of these elements appear in any surviving cut of the film. If this lost ending existed, it would have radically reframed the entire story, suggesting not only Rachel's limited lifespan, but Deckard's own existential uncertainty. Was the world decaying? Was Deckard's reality artificial? Or was this meant to symbolize the collapse of the system hunting replicants? No film, no stills, no confirmed script pages survive. Only faint recollections, and the chilling image of metallic snow falling onto a man who may not be human at all. 3. 2001, A Space Odyssey, 1968. Few films inspire as many archival rumors as 2001, but one story stands above the rest: the alleged aborted Stargate coda. According to several crew members who attended pre-release workprint screenings, the original ending did not stop at the rebirth of the Star Child. Instead, the sequence allegedly continued with a series of cryptic, slow, drifting shots through a dimly lit chamber, something between a spacecraft interior and a primordial structure. Witnesses recall translucent shapes suspended in the air, almost like embryonic forms, pulsing softly. Some claimed these shapes resembled early humans. Others insist they were mechanical, as though representing the first stage of a new species engineered by unseen architects. The final alleged image: a massive, angular object, rotating silently in deep space, larger than any monolith glimpsed in the finished film. MGM denies any such material existed. Kubrick's estate denies it even more forcefully, insisting that every frame Kubrick didn't use was deliberately destroyed. And yet, sketches rumored to be from abandoned sequences occasionally surface in private collections, depicting geometric structures never seen in the final cut. Their authenticity is unverified, but their style is unmistakably Kubrickian. One editor, speaking anonymously years later, said only, "There was a version too explicit. Kubrick preferred mystery. If the lost ending is real, it may have revealed too much, too direct a glimpse into the forces guiding human evolution. In preserving the ambiguity, Kubrick may have erased a sequence that tried to answer questions the final film deliberately leaves open. All that remains is speculation, fragments, and a sense that somewhere in a vault, an ending once lived and was intentionally extinguished." 4. The Fly, 1986. Cronenberg's The Fly is notorious for its cut butterfly baby ending, but some claim an even more disturbing conclusion was shown to a handful of preview audiences before the better-known deleted scenes were scrapped. According to multiple testimonies, after Brundlefly's death, Veronica was shown waking up weeks later in a Stark hospital ward. A doctor informs her she survived, but that residual genetic anomalies were detected. Veronica then experiences a series of hallucinations, glimpses of mirrored surfaces, where her reflection briefly morphs into an insectoid silhouette. She attempts to touch her face, only for her skin to ripple, as though something were shifting beneath. The final moment of this lost ending reportedly showed Veronica on a rooftop at dusk. As she looks out over the city, her shadow cast long by the setting sun begins to twitch independently, its movements insect-like, wholly disconnected from her own. The screen then cut abruptly to black. 20th Century Fox has repeatedly denied that such footage ever existed. They acknowledge only the better-known deleted sequences, none of which resemble this surreal epilogue. Yet a member of the camera crew once referenced late pickups with Gina on a rooftop, with no explanation of their purpose. If real, this lost ending would transform The Fly from a tragic love story into a lingering existential question: what happens when the horror outlives the monster? No negatives, no stills, no workprint fragments, just a shadow that may have once twitched on screen and then vanished. 5. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 1977. Spielberg's classic ends with awe and uplift, but early accounts point to a darker, alternate conclusion shown only in the earliest workprint screenings. In this rumored version, after Neri enters the mothership, the camera remains outside longer, showing the ship beginning to pulse erratically. The surrounding machines flicker. A low hum builds. Some preview attendees claim they saw the ship's lights briefly falter, almost as if the craft itself were struggling to maintain coherence. The missing footage allegedly cut to a silent shot of the night sky, stars blinking out one by one, not fading naturally, but extinguishing abruptly, as if something beyond human understanding were passing through or consuming regions of space. Then, the screen supposedly cut to black, not with triumph, but with dread. Columbia Pictures denies that such an ominous ending was ever conceived, yet several production memos refer to cosmic disturbances plates scheduled for effects photography. One effects technician recalls filming a miniature star field with a mechanical blackout grid, a tool used to sequentially remove individual stars frame by frame. That technique appears nowhere in the final movie. What this alternate ending meant remains unclear. Was it a warning? A misunderstanding? a hint that contact with the extraterrestrials might have larger consequences? If the lost material ever existed, it has vanished completely. Spielberg has never acknowledged it, the studio has no record of it, and the supposed star-extinguishing plates have not resurfaced. Only the memories of a few stunned viewers keep this ghost ending alive. 6. Altered States, 1980. The theatrical ending of Altered States is already chaotic, but early audience reports suggest an even stranger, more abstract conclusion once existed, one that pushed the film's metaphysical ideas into territory Warner Brothers found unreleasable. According to viewers who attended the earliest previews, the missing ending showed Jessup's final de-evolution spiraling past the feature's iconic light tunnels into a stark black void. For several seconds, the screen was said to remain completely dark, while Jessup's distorted voice muttered fragmented lines like, "Not done, not done," before bursting into a montage of embryonic forms, human and otherwise rapidly flickering as if fighting for dominance. This rumored sequence supposedly ended with a close-up of Jessup staring at the camera, his features half-human, half-shifting pattern, before violently snapping back to normal. Only then did the film shift into the final embrace we know today, but with a lingering sense that Jessup had not fully returned. Warner Brothers denies this version ever existed. They maintain that director Ken Russell never completed an alternate ending. But an early editing log includes an entry labeled Evo divided by Dev Montage, Cut 3, with an X drawn through it, and the cryptic note, "Do not restore." Adding to the mystery, an effects animator claimed in a 1990 interview that he animated things no one ever saw, describing frames of in-between beings that were later discarded. If this lost ending is real, it would shift Altered States from psychological science fiction to something closer to cosmic horror, implying Jessup's transformation opened a door he never fully closed. Today, the footage is nowhere in the archives. Whatever it revealed has dissolved into rumor. 7. The Abyss, 1989. The Abyss already has two known endings, the theatrical and the special edition. But some claim a third, now lost ending was shown in extremely limited test screenings. This version reportedly blended the emotional intimacy of the theatrical cut with the apocalyptic montage of the special edition, but added a chilling detail the studio later removed entirely. According to these witnesses, after the aliens reveal humanity's violent history, they show but a final sequence. Not global destruction, but global silence. City after city, emptied, not destroyed, simply abandoned. No bodies, no damage, no explanation, just streets without people, machines still running, lights still flickering. Then, the aliens allegedly state, "This is not a threat. This is the outcome you choose for yourselves." The scene is said to have culminated with a silent shot of Earth from orbit-darkened coastlines, pockets of light flickering out one by one. Only then does the alien ship rise to the surface. James Cameron denies such footage was ever created, but a few crew members recall a lost experimental sequence that tested photographic plates of empty cities. One matte painter even claimed to have produced evacuated street composites that were never used. The footage, if real, would have shifted the film's message from a plea for peace to a prophecy of self-erasure, a future not of war, but of abandonment. Nothing remains, no plates, no composites, no negatives, just uneasy recollections of an ending too bleak for the film Cameron ultimately wanted to release. 8. Star Trek, the motion picture, 1979. The theatrical ending shows the merging of Vigor and Decker into an ascended entity. But according to long-standing rumors among early preview attendees, the original ending didn't fade to triumphant wonder. It slid into something far more unsettling. In the alleged lost sequence, after the blinding flash of the merge, the Enterprise bridge briefly receives a distorted transmission, fragmented words, echoing tones, and a faint voice resembling Decker's saying, "Identity incomplete, searching." The message cuts abruptly, leaving the crew in shocked silence. Then, the screen reportedly showed a single star flickering unnaturally, as if reacting to the transmission. Paramount denies such footage was ever planned, but editing notes from early production mention an extended Vigor coda marked incomplete. Even more curious, a sound engineer once referenced mixing post-fusion audio anomalies, none of which appear in the final film. Some crew members recall an early version of the ending that executives rejected for being too abstract, too ambiguous. Others dismiss the rumors entirely. Yet multiple preview viewers across different cities describe the same eerie transmission and the same unnaturally flickering star. If this sequence ever existed, it would reframe V'ger's final form, not as an enlightened being, but as something still evolving, something unfinished, searching for identity across the cosmos. That implication would cast a long, unnerving shadow over the optimistic finale. But no audio reel, no work print, and no log entry confirms it. What remains feels like a half-remembered message from something that no longer has a voice. 9. Planet of the Apes, 1968. The final revelation of Planet of the Apes is one of cinema's most iconic twists, but for a small number of early preview audiences, the ending didn't stop at the shattered Statue of Liberty. According to these witnesses, the original cut continued for nearly 2 additional minutes. After Taylor collapses on the shore, the camera reportedly pulled back to reveal not just the ruins of Liberty, but fragments of another monument, one unidentifiable, half buried beneath layers of debris and sand. This continued sequence allegedly showed Taylor exploring the fragments, brushing away dust to reveal structures unlike any modern architecture. Unfamiliar insignias, geometric patterns, and metallic surfaces that looked impossibly smooth, according to one attendee. Some believed it hinted at an advanced civilization predating humanity, something the apes themselves may not have fully understood. 20th Century Fox insists these shots never existed. No set photos, no storyboards, no negatives have surfaced. Yet in 1985, a collector claimed to own a strip of damaged 16mm print showing Taylor standing before an unrecognizable metallic arch. The frame resembled nothing in the released film. The strip later vanished after a private sale, and no scans exist. Crew interviews add fuel to the fire. One production assistant recalled a mysterious last-minute reshoot involving unfamiliar props. Another insisted the film originally ended on a more cosmic note, though he provided no details. If the missing ending were real, it would have transformed the narrative from a cyclical warning about humanity to an implication of forces older and stranger than human or ape. But the evidence, if it ever existed, has eroded like the coastline itself, leaving only fragments no studio can account for. 10 THX 11381971. George Lucas's debut already carries the chill of authoritarian sterility, but early viewers claim the original ending was colder still. As released, the film ends with THX emerging onto the sunlit surface, but the lost ending shown only in limited test screenings, according to witnesses, continued beyond that shot. In the missing sequence, THX supposedly walks toward the horizon only for the camera to pull back, revealing that the sky itself flickers like a malfunctioning projection. The sun dims momentarily, replaced by a grid pattern. Then, a voiceover calm clinical states, "Surface simulation incomplete. Reconstructing cycle." This moment reportedly caused confusion among early audiences, who questioned whether THX had escaped at all or merely passed into another fabricated environment. Some described the ending as too bleak, others as too revealing. No footage survives. Lucasfilm denies the sequence was ever created, but a production memo discovered in a private archive lists a note reading "Ext, surface, sky projection test," implying that some form of visual experiment was planned. Additionally, a former visual effects technician recalls shooting a sky plate with grid lines, but thought it was for calibration, not a narrative scene. If real, the lost ending would reframe the film's message entirely, suggesting THX never reached reality, only a higher tier of illusion. The official version offers a glimpse of hope. The missing one, if it existed, strips that hope away. Once again, the archive is silent. Only memories remain, and memories, in cases like this, are the most fragile evidence of all. 11. The Black Hole, 1979. The theatrical ending of The Black Hole is already surreal, but whispers of an alternate conclusion push the film into even stranger territory. Several viewers of early preview screenings recall a version where Reinhardt's fate inside the vortex was depicted more explicitly and more disturbingly. In this lost ending, after Reinhardt merges with Maximilian, the camera reportedly pulled back to reveal not a symbolic hellscape, but a vast mechanical cathedral populated by motionless humanoid figures. These forms fused with machinery appeared to be prior explorers trapped within the singularity, each locked in an eternal loop of incomplete thought. One witness described it as a city of frozen mines. Disney denies such footage was ever storyboarded, let alone filmed. However, surviving concept art from early production kept in private collections shows sketches of humanoid silhouettes embedded into massive steel pillars, their faces elongated as though stretched by gravitational distortion. These drawings do not match any scene in the final cut. Crew members remain divided. One effects artist insists they created miniature plates for a cathedral dimension. Another swears no such project existed, but several preview viewers who never met each other later describe the same missing sequence, a mechanical void at the end of time. If the lost ending existed, it would have transformed the black hole from metaphysical curiosity to full existential horror. Instead, all that remains is a handful of conflicting memories, a few pieces of suspiciously detailed artwork, and a gap in the archive large enough to swallow the truth whole. Dos, Dark Star, 1974. Carpenter's cult classic Dark Star is remembered for its absurdist tone, but early test screening audiences recall a strikingly different final note, an ending far more somber than the theatrical release. According to multiple attendees, the lost ending showed Talby drifting upward toward the Phoenix asteroid, not in triumphant wonder, but in a slow realization that the asteroid was not what mission logs claim. In the missing footage, Talby's visor display allegedly flickered with unidentified data coordinates, warnings, and a cryptic line of text reading, "Not cataloged." After Talby's ascent, the scene reportedly cut back to Doolittle, surfing down toward the planet's surface. Except in this version, his descent was longer, with Doolittle whispering a final line, "We were never supposed to find out." The moment was said to be followed by a faint, distorted transmission, possibly Talby attempting to communicate something before contact was lost. The studio denies any such material existed. They insist no alternate audio, no extended epilogue, and no additional effects shots were ever completed. Yet, several production stills show Talby filmed at multiple angles during his ascent shots, not present in any surviving cut. Even stranger, an early editing log references Shot 4B Talby Revelation, marked with a handwritten X and the note, "Remove all traces." No one has been able to explain that phrase. The editor listed in the log said he never wrote it. If real, the lost ending would have shifted Dark Star from dark comedy to cosmic dread, implying that the mission uncovered something far beyond malfunctioning bombs and failing morale. But like Talby himself, the missing footage seems to have slipped into deep space, never to return. 13. Silent Running, 1972. The ending of Silent Running is already melancholy, but early viewers remember something even more devastating, an extended coda that no longer survived. According to several attendees of the 1971-72 test screenings, the film originally included a final message from Lowell, recorded before his sacrifice. In this alleged version, Lowell expresses uncertainty about whether keeping the last forest dome alive was worth the cost, hinting that humanity might not deserve the chance he preserved. This moment reportedly cut to Drone 2, tending the plants as usual, but then shifting behavior lingering on Lowell's tools, examining his helmet, and finally performing a small gesture resembling a human salute. The final shot, according to these accounts, showed the dome drifting past a starless region of space with faint radio static, suggesting an intercepted signal that would never reach Earth. Universal claims no such ending was ever filmed. Yet notes found in Douglas Trumbull's early drafts mention a farewell monologue and drone identification sequence, both marked with checkboxes indicating completion. Oddly, these notations disappear entirely by the final revision. What troubles archivists is how consistent the testimony is across different decades. People who saw the film only once, in a pre-release form never publicly screened again, independently describe the same sequence down to the drone's gesture. If the lost ending existed, it would have transformed the film's emotional center, shifting its message from bittersweet hope to existential uncertainty. But no footage, work print, or audio track remains. It is as if the scene drifted away, just like the dome itself, into a silence no one can recover. 14. Logan's Run, 1966. The theatrical ending of Logan's Run presents a world awakening from its illusions, but reports from select preview audiences paint a different picture. 1. The studio quickly buried. According to those viewers, the original ending continued beyond the city's collapse. Logan and Jessica were said to wander through a vast, derelict structure resembling an abandoned auxiliary control dome. Inside, they found rows of darkened machinery and a second AI core, one that still believed Carousel was active and continued processing unseen citizens. This sequence, if real, would have fundamentally altered the film's mythology. Instead of a triumphant escape, it would imply that the system extended far beyond what the characters understood, that the city they fled was merely one node in a larger network. MGM denies the existence of such footage. Their records show no notes, no call sheets, no set descriptions, no soundstage bookings for an additional dome interior. Yet fragments of still photography, found in a private collection decades later, appear to show Michael York standing before a massive circular terminal, one that does not appear anywhere in the surviving cut. Crew members recall shooting something extra late in production, though none can agree on its content. Some remember only a vague control chamber. Others insist it was scrapped before editing began. Yet if that were true, why did multiple preview attendees from different cities recall the same extended ending? If the sequence ever existed, it is now gone. No negatives, no prints, no logs. Like the society it depicted, it simply vanished. 15. The Andromeda Strain, 1971. Among archivists, this film holds one of the earliest cases of a documented but missing ending. During its initial test screenings in early 1971, a small group of attendees reported seeing a radically different final sequence, one in which the scientist Stone discovers that the mutated organism has already infiltrated the facility's internal ventilation system. The scene allegedly culminated in a slow, silent tracking shot through abandoned research corridors, implying that the outbreak had begun long before the alarm sounded, yet no such footage exists today. Universal Studios insist the scene was never shot, a claim that contradicts early production memos, noting a post-pandemic corridor sequence, marked as completed and awaiting approval. Even stranger, one of the camera operators later mentioned filming a final dolly pass in the white hallway set, though he could not recall why it was cut or why it no longer appeared in the vault. What makes this case particularly unsettling is that the rumored lost ending reshaped the entire film's meaning. Instead of celebrating the narrow escape in the final moments, it would have suggested that containment had already failed. The surviving release frames the threat as averted. The missing version reportedly reveals that the crisis was already irreversible. No negatives, no work print, no trims. Not even a script page containing the supposed scene survives. All evidence, physical and written, seems to have been purged, leaving only testimonies from a handful of early viewers who insist they saw a version of the film the studio now denies ever existed. Bonus: The Twilight Zone, the movie, 1983. Among all the whispered tales of lost endings, none is spoken of more cautiously than the missing sequence rumored to have existed in early cuts of The Twilight Zone, the movie. Unlike the other films on this list, this ending was said to connect all 4 anthology segments into a single, unnerving continuity, one that studios allegedly buried immediately after a private screening. According to multiple accounts from early post-production staff, the lost ending took place aboard the plane from the final segment. After the gremlin attack winds down, the screen reportedly shifted into a montage of scenes from the other stories. The terrified passengers from Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, the warped childhood home from It's a Good Life, the desert ruins from Time Out, and the hospital ward from Kick the Can. In this rumored version, each environment contained a small but unmistakable anomaly, something alive, moving, or watching. Then, the film allegedly cut back to the damaged plane. As emergency crews opened the cabin door, they found not just the panicked protagonist, but objects from the other segments scattered across the aisle. A cornfield toy, a World War II dog tag, a child's drawing, and an empty hospital bracelet. The implication, subtle but chilling, was that the stories were not separate incidents but manifestations leaking into each other, signs of a dimension collapsing under its own narrative weight. Warner Brothers denies any such ending ever existed. Editors who worked on the film claim no knowledge. Yet a single production memo, reportedly from an early cut, includes the line, "Final convergence assemble segment artifacts." No footage accompanied the memo, and the page has since disappeared from the archive. If real, this lost ending would have transformed the anthology into a closed loop, a Twilight Zone where stories bleed together, unable to remain contained. The endings in this archive were never meant to vanish, but somehow they did. Work prints dissolved, negatives misplaced, notes rewritten, and memories left to contradict the official record. Yet every missing scene leaves behind a shape in the darkness, a space where something once existed. And the more studios insist these cuts were never real, the more their absence feels deliberate. If these endings truly surfaced once, even for a moment, they left an imprint strong enough to survive decades of denials. Perhaps that is their greatest proof. This file is now closed, but another vault is waiting just out of sight, just out of reach. When you're ready, we'll unlock it together.